Ni hao. 99% of all tech startups fail. That means that for every WeChat or for every WhatsApp, there's another 99 companies that just die. What is it that makes some companies successful and others just fail? And I'm going to try and say something about that today. I think we're just waiting for the clicker. Oh, there we go, right. Okay. About 30 years ago, my mother and father are running a small business. They have about 15 employees. They've been in business for 20 years. And every week, my mother has to spend about 2 days doing the accounts and the payroll. She has to write down all the names of all the employees, then she writes down the amount of pay that they've got, then she has to write down the amount of pay that they'd had that year, and then she has to do a tax calculation on that. And then she needed to fill out all the pay slips for the employees. And then she had to check it all. And I just learned to write computer programs at that time. And I thought maybe technology can help. The computers weren't that powerful at that time. We couldn't afford an expensive computer. And it took me some months. I had to write special components that would make the software work. But eventually it worked. And it changed my mother's life. And instead of taking 2 days, it took her about 5 to 10 minutes. She was absolutely delighted. She had more time, and the company thrived. Within a year, my father was employing 60 people, and then another year later, 100, and then 6 months later, 200 people. I was very lucky, because that first piece of software that I wrote, I'd written for my mother. I knew my mother. I knew what the task was. I knew the problems that she was facing. I'd written with empathy. Empathy. The ability to share somebody else's feelings or experiences by imagining what it would be like to be in that person's situation. I'm going to give you an example of something that many of you will experience every day. Yeah, thank goodness. A taxi. We all know what it's like to get a taxi today, but what was it like 20 years ago? I remember standing on cold, wet street corners, wondering if the taxi was going to come, wondering how much it was going to cost. Would I have enough money? What if the taxi went the wrong way? And what if I'd given the taxi the wrong directions and it was never going to arrive? And then think about the taxi driver. What was it like for them? A stranger's about to get into their car. Maybe I'm a criminal. Maybe I'm going to try and steal their money. Maybe the customer isn't there when they arrive. Maybe I've caught another taxi, or I've gone inside because it's wet. Or maybe I'm going to try and run away at the end and not pay the bill. And now, here in Shanghai, we have Didi. Back in the UK, where I'm from, we have Uber. It's a completely different experience. And I put to you that this technology has been built with empathy for both the taxi driver and also the customer. When I got into my first Uber car back in the UK, I was absolutely intrigued by the technology. And I asked the driver, I said, "What's it like? Is it better or is it worse?" He said, "It's fantastic." He goes, "I'm not afraid anymore. Nobody can rob me. I'm not worried that my customers are going to run away. And I can work the hours that I want. And I know how much work I've got in front of me." I reflected on this after I got out of the taxi. And I thought, that's fantastic. I've just walked out. I haven't had to get my wallet out. And I felt safe with him as well, because I knew that there's a record that I'm in that taxi. So this is an example of some technology that I think you all enjoy using almost every day. And I think you can see that it's been built with some empathy. I'm just getting this clicker. And we're all aware of technology that we use every day that we think, it's rubbish. I can't see the point of it. I don't like using it. Who's designed this? They can't ever have used the thing that they've designed. And there's lots of examples of that. About 21 years ago, there he goes. I used to go and pick up the kids from school every day. And then I would drive to where my wife worked, at the hospital. She was a doctor. And we'd wait for her to finish her work. She always took a long time, always had to wait for a long time. It was very boring. But what struck me was that she was spending a lot of time communicating with other doctors, either reading letters from hospitals or sending letters to hospitals about patients. And I was shocked at the amount of time she was spending doing this, because she trained for 10 years. She was a very empathic person, very good with patients, very clever person. She had 3 degrees, and there she was, spending her time doing administrative tasks. And I thought to myself, how can technology help here? Is there something that can be done? And then I thought about it from a patient's perspective. As a patient, as I'm sure some of you have been, going to different hospitals, different doctors, having to repeat yourself, saying, my name, my address, have you got any allergies, what drugs are you on? I can't even remember the names of the drugs that I'm on. I know I'm on the blue pills or the red pills, but what exactly they are, I don't know. And then, of course, sometimes patients just forget or can't remember particular symptoms. I know I do. So we thought about that and started building this system 21 years ago. And it was successful. And it's gone on. I think there's 48 million patients on the system now and hundreds of thousands of doctors using it. And they like it. Why do they like it? Because the patients don't have to repeat themselves. The doctors are really happy. They can see what the patient's symptoms are. They can see what their allergies are. They can also see what the other doctors have already diagnosed about those patients. So it's a real help. And from a patient perspective, not having to repeat yourself, especially if you're in pain, is a really good thing. And it saves lives. And I think I was lucky again, because I spent time with my wife thinking about what her experience was like. And I think I was able to think about what it was like when I was a patient, or a member of my family was a patient. Oh, I think that flicked a bit. There we go. And now I come to today. This is my colleague, Dr. John Parry. I think he looks like a doctor. Doctors always look a little bit like that. He's a very nice man. He's very clever. He went to Cambridge. He tells us about that all the time. But he put to us a problem. He said patients are getting more and more demanding. There's more and more things for a doctor to remember. What can you do, Frank, that's going to improve that? So it was really looking at that doctor-patient experience. GPs in the UK have about 7 minutes with every patient. They have to scan maybe through 30 years of medical records, and they have to be quick, and they have to not miss anything. And he set us a challenge. He said, I want you to be able to spot ovarian cancer. And he deliberately picked one of the most difficult things. Why is it difficult? Because in a doctor's lifetime, over a 40-year career, they might only see 7 or 8 ladies with ovarian cancer. They've got 7 minutes to spot it. If they miss it, it's fatal. In the UK, it's called a silent killer, because usually by the time it's detected, it's already, unfortunately, too late for the lady. So we thought, what technology have we got? What's available? And obviously, a piece of technology that's startlingly available today is AI. So we started thinking about AI. We had some big data because we built this enormous system. We started thinking, what would the experience? What is it that the doctor needs? We built the AI to give the doctor a nudge, to just kind of say, hey, have a think. Maybe this lady has got ovarian cancer. And then to help, from the patient's perspective, to help, say, suggest questions to ask the patient. Because if you're in a lot of pain, it's very, very hard to be focused and give the doctor the right symptoms. When we built the system, we were delighted. But then, this slide is meant to be blank, by the way. But then, there was a feeling in the office of great thoughtfulness. And where there should have been really clapping and cheering, there was just silence. We knew we'd done it. We knew we'd done early detection of cancer. We knew we could now spot 50% of women earlier than the GP could see it. But there was a great sense from looking at all those medical records, thinking of the grandmothers, the mothers, and the daughters out there suffering from this dreadful disease. We felt very empathic about that. So this is my eureka moment 30 years ago. That's me in the chair, my brother behind me with a hairstyle appropriate for that time. And that's the original computer I wrote the payroll for my mother. If I was to, that young man there doesn't know that he's having his eureka moment at that moment in time. I'm just hoping that the payroll's going to work. But if I could go back in time and talk to him, I'd tell him to tidy his room, I'd tell him to put some trousers on, but I'd also say, continue to design your tech with empathy. Because we wouldn't have been able to build the AI for early detection of cancer if we didn't have the big data. And we wouldn't have been able to have the big data if I hadn't built those components, those bits of Lego on that computer that was so small in those times. So I say once again, design your tech with empathy, and I can almost guarantee it will be successful because you've pre-thought about it. You've put yourself in the position of the person who's going to use your technology. You've felt it from their perspective. I think it's going to come. Yep. Hey, here we are in Shanghai. And when I think about the challenges that we've got ahead of us, sometimes it can be daunting, but I think we should go forward with confidence. And I perhaps would like to set a challenge to you guys out there. Of course, it's going to be one to do with healthcare technology. My mother's older now. She doesn't work anymore. She's frail, she's elderly, and she's got Alzheimer's. And I think that's something that many of you will be able to identify with. And unfortunately, as we all get older, we're all going to become more frail. And some of us will get Alzheimer's. This is a challenge we ought to try and crack. And somebody out there will crack it. But I say to you, before you release your tech, think about who's going to use it. Think about the mothers, the fathers. Think about the children, or the aunts and uncles, the sisters, brothers. And if you have empathy for their situation, and you can understand how it's going to feel, then I say, congratulations. You've just made a tech product that's going to thrive and succeed. So I wish you luck, and I look forward to seeing that over the next few years. Thank you. Thank you very much.